Hi, welcome to the Poetry Project. I'm Kyle DeCoyan. I'm the executive director here. I'm very grateful to be with you and to be with James Allister Sprang for his talk, Aquifer of the Now, the echo of disembodied sound in an embodied ear. James's work alters my experience of the sonic, social, architectural, and temporal as channels both liberatory and culpable in their interdependence. Our attention is called into the ways we make space, time, and story together, and it is with that in mind that I thank you for shaping our experience of this event with your listening and your care. Thank you for abiding by our safety practices and continuing to wear your mask through this presentation. We make this space also with our shared reflection and acknowledgement of its complex histories and futures. Our physical venue is situated on the unceded homeland of the Lenape people in a building whose structure is materially bound to enslavement and the labor of stolen lives. We recognize that these sorts of acknowledgements can be used as stand-ins for actual divestment, decolonization, accountability, and repair. And we keep this in mind as we commit ourselves substantively and with humility to this work. What do we bear, find, and unburden as we open onto new horizons of listening? What is listening as a gentler and also ever more radical mode of co-presence? Aquifer, running throughout Sprang's work, calls to mind fluid motion and horizon, capillary action, cartographies of what persist and defy explanation. Staying with the time space of this work across encounter and context, I find so much long submerged, coming not to the surface of understanding, but the threshold of perception, and hanging there underneath, the underneath revealed as a position dignified in its patience. All of these elements are firing synaptically, rich with waiting and feeling, and free from the pressures of legibility or function. Listening refines to place and person and being. Being, of course, is always changing. Likewise, we and here are turning, and I turn this now with appreciation to James Allister Sprang. Please join me in welcoming him to the Poetry Project.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm very grateful to see all of your faces. How are we doing tonight? Are we all right? Okay. So troubadours, storytellers from my tradition, that being the Caribbean, ask their audience for permission to tell their story. So I would like to say crack. I would like to say crick, and upon me saying crick, I would love it if you said crack. That would be you giving me permission to tell my story. Yes? Okay. Crick. 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 Beautiful. Thank you. Oh, all right. So tonight, we're going to do some listening. I've been working with these kind of advanced sound systems for a while now, and have been thinking about the difference, as you can tell in the title of this wonderful talk, which will be very little of me talking and more of us listening. I've been thinking about the distinction between embodiment and disembodiment, embodied sound, disembodied sound, embodied voices, disembodied voices. There seems to me to be a wonderful slippage between those two things when we are actively listening. And if the body is the overlap, it's beautiful to think of how we are the blur, right? We are that slippage, which I think is very rich when thinking about ancestry and the diaspora. So with those thoughts in the air, I'd just like to kind of establish some breathing patterns, right? Like, let's breathe together for a second. Let's take in the sound of the space, and then I'm going to start playing this audio. I'm going to introduce this audio into the space. It's going to play for just over 35 minutes. Then I will contextualize it, and then we'll say goodnight. Cool? All right, so this first breathing pattern is simple. It's called box breathing, right? We're going to inhale while counting to 5 slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now exit the diaphragm slowly while counting to 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Let's do that again. That exhale can be audible. That exhale can be audible, and try to fill your diaphragm. I'm just trying to get us in the mood here, all right? It's a rainy day. Let's get in the mood, okay? Let's inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. The second breathing pattern is almost identical to the first. The only distinction is we're going to take a very quick, sharp, deep inhalation at 5, and then exhale. So we're trying to fill our lungs, and at 5, when we feel as though our lungs cannot inhale anymore, we will push them for 1 second and then exhale, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That feels good. I know it does. I know it does. All right, so we are going to continue doing that and try to be present in our breath. We're going to try to be present in our bodies while we listen to this piece. Sorry, I'm connecting. There's a disconnection. Get in where you fit in, right? Let's make it. There we go. All right, so this was presented at the Chocolate Factory, and you'll hear that. I'm going to say that in this, so just know we're here. We're not there. We are here. Okay.
This is a Blue audiobook recording presented by the Chocolate Factory, Aquifer of the Weave. Dedication for you who helped for bridges. Epigraph. Memory in our works is not calendar memory. Our experience of time does not keep company with the rhythms of month and year alone. Edouard Glissant. I have said before that the music is the words, and the words are the music. It is all there for you to understand if you can, and for you to feel, regardless. Sun Ra. Shit. It's hard. Damn. This quick, incarnate incompleteness. Fred Moten. Introduction. We are all longing. Nostalgia for the old normal is a pang in all of our sides. Like a longing for a lost homeland, I feel it under my skin, and I realize I have never considered my relationship with our ancestral past is a type of nostalgia, an inherited nostalgia bone. Now, more than ever, it is difficult to ignore these bones like oars gliding through today's seas of precarity. Our communities have always engaged nostalgia as a compass, simply by other names, as ritual, as signifying, or the remix, as the American blues, as the jazz solo, as the sampling of hip-hop or second lines of New Orleans, always returning the joy of the past to the present. We somehow know how to be present in the moment, while moving towards the mirage of what is gone. This work is written and woven by many. It is rooted in holding together what would like to fray. Rooted in moving forward while fixing our shoulder blades to hold what shines bright on our backs. Let us meditate. Let us remember that deep listening transforms that which is before us. Let us begin. One. At a crossroads amongst the blues of our time. Arrive to the snug weave of the interior. There is a dappling of light across the underside of your skin. Our skin is a wave, authored by a large, beautiful wake. 4. You are a single vulnerable soul amongst the whole wide black interior, amongst the many pathways, the many intersections that arrive to this deep time, this abstraction, this mirepoix of past, present, future, fixed, fluid, forward. What passes through is the finest of dandelion, diaspora, stardust, settling beneath transparent patchwork skin. This aquifer of the weave.
thank you for listening. Are we all feeling okay? Cool. So that was recorded at the Bunker in Brooklyn. Keys, Matisse Picard on Rhodes and Steinway. Jake Goldblass on the drums. Me on my vocal cords and a modular synthesizer. And Rafiq Bhatia on guitar. Essentially recorded in one take. And it was a magical moment. And it was the 8th of 8 Aquifers that I've made since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. And this is the last. So that's me talking about my work. That's my work. That's both me and what I do. What I will do is kind of contextualize that, kind of put that in relation to deep listening, despite us having done it already. Thank you. So in 1971, Pauline Oliveros published this, Sonic Meditations. And I start with this because in a practice that is multidisciplinary, there's no model, right? And you kind of got to get in where you fit in, you find what resonates, and the introduction to this has resonated for a very long time. And it reads, Sonic meditations are intended for group work over a long period of time with regular meetings. No special skills are necessary. Any persons who are willing to commit themselves can participate. The women's ensemble to whom these meditations are dedicated has found that nonverbal meetings intensify the results of those meditations and help provide an atmosphere which is conducive to such activity. With continuous work, some of the following becomes possible with sonic meditations: heightened states of awareness or expanded consciousness, changes in physiology and psychology from known and unknown tensions to relaxations which gradually become permanent. These changes may represent a tuning of mind and body. The group may develop positive energy, I'm feeling that, which can influence others who are less experienced. Members of the group may achieve greater awareness and sensitivity to each other. Music is a welcome byproduct of this activity. So in 1989, Pauline Oliveros went here. This is a cistern that's a little over 40 feet below ground, right, underground. And in this space, there's a 45-second reverb, which is insane, right? So first of all, I want to acknowledge the humor in the phrase deep listening, right? Let's maintain space for humor, right? It's called deep listening because they're underground. They're deep underground. And underground, deep underground, is this architecture that allows for them to sit in a phrasing for 45 seconds, right? So they are both in embodied and disembodied sound at the same time, right? It's an aquifer of the now, and their bodies are the aquifer. In 2016, I went here, which is a place called Monum, which holds one of now 4 4D sound systems in the world. This is a 48.9 sound system, which means that there are 9 subwoofers in the ground and there are 49 speakers in the space. And each of these columns holds 3 omnidirectional speakers. Now, what's an omnidirectional speaker? Well, this is what it looks like isolated. So there are 3 of these in each of this column. And this kind of breaks down in a very rudimentary way what an omnidirectional speaker is, right? So we're familiar, we just listened to a composition for 4D sound played on stereo speakers, right? Played on stereo, right? So sound projects, and we sit in the overlap of its array, the array of the speaker, which is generally about 45 degrees, right? New generation surround sound speakers, we're talking like Atmos. We've got a bunch of speakers in the space, and they generate multiple overlaps, which creates an illusion of being surrounded by the sound, right? What these omnidirectional speakers do is they have a 360-degree array, both on a Y and X axis. So there's an orb of sound around each of these speakers, and there are 3 of them in each of these columns, right? Which means that in a space like this, you can place sound in space. You can place the voice of a person in space, and it will feel like they are there, right? Let's see if we can. So this is what it looks like on the back end, right? Just a quick illustration of what I'm looking at on my computer when I'm essentially choreographing sound. So these are 4 sound sources. That could be the kick, the hi-hat, the snare on a drum, right? And you can see they're moving around the space, but there's also levels, right? So one of those sound sources can be below ground, one can be by your knee, one by your head, one above you, right? And that's just one example, one very simple example of how sound can be animated in space, right? So you can imagine every element of what you just heard was animated in space, right? So when I listen to it, in the same way, like you can close your eyes and you can imagine walking through your childhood house, I can close my eyes and I can remember and feel where those sounds were in space, which is why for me, this is an aquifer of the now. Okay, anyways, moving on. And I think it helps. I'm not gonna get super geeky about like the back end on this, but I think it helps to see what the software looks like, right? So there are 49, there's a representation of 48 speakers in this space, right? And you can see that's one stereo sound source moving in space. So as that sound source moves, as I choreograph it through space, I can get a sense of what speakers are being activated, right? And so I can get a sense of how it will sound in space before I'm actually there, right? So imagine a sound getting louder, not because you're turning up the gain, but because you're activating more speakers in space, because the sound source is getting larger. So you could take this, the voice of a child can start in a corner and ramble through the room and then all of a sudden take over the whole room, right? I get very active when I talk about this. So in Berlin, Monum, we could fit about 400 people in the space, right? I now own one of these sound systems, and I can only fit about 10 people in the space. And so this is an example. The piece that you just heard was the sonic component to the first installation that I was able to realize with the first 4D sound system in this country and the 4th in the world. And this is, people are looking at a a large weaving that is 16 by 37 feet. And while they looked at this weaving, that sound was moving around them. and lights were moving to that sound, so that the weaving took on a life. It seemed as though it was breathing. It felt very oceanic. A detail. And so it's my intention to keep making these sound installations in which we can think of sound, history, voices as both embodied and disembodied, and perhaps in that endeavor, feel into the present a bit deeper. Yeah. Thank you for listening. That's my contact information if you'd like to hit me up. And I guess I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. But it doesn't feel like anyone has a question. Does anyone have a question? Yeah, cool. Thank you for listening. Yeah. Yeah, so I've been working with 4D Sound, which is based in the Netherlands, for the past few years, and have been helping them develop the software, but I have not developed it. I have simply been consultation, is perhaps the most diplomatic way to say. Yes.
Well, I have a lot of questions, honestly. I just want to hear you nerd out about them. And your passion shows, and that's really exciting as well. But you said that you can place the sound of a person, and it will feel like you're in that space. What about, like, what draws you to that idea, or like, how do you see that idea kind of evolving or growing, if at all? Because I feel like when I thought about that, I was thinking about like bringing kind of like the absence and presence and depth, and that the same idea of like ancestry in some way. So I was wondering, like, where do you take that?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking of the body as an archive. I'm thinking about what happens when the body is no longer with us. I'm thinking of generational trauma. I'm thinking of ancestry, right? So I'm thinking of the things that we become into, the things that we know but maybe haven't been told, and how to represent that with sound. And sometimes it's literally a voice. Maybe it is literally the voice of a child, and then the voice of a middle-aged woman, and then the voice of an older person. I mean, it's all storytelling. But I think there's so much potential, so much storytelling that can be done with sonics alone. And I'm interested in mapping those things on top of each other. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah? Cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it's so like kind of like an open forum, it's a very open kind of practice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that much about it, but it seems like everybody can kind of, it's kind of it's creative as well as listening. So I was curious, like, what your journey through that has been like.
For sure. Yeah, I felt a type of way about it, and then I heard Pauline herself in an old video refer to the phrase as a meme, and I was like, okay, all right, because it is a fertile playing ground, playground. I have a modular synthesizer, which is like, it's an instrument that there's like a call and response aspect to it, right? You can program something, and you don't know exactly what's gonna come out, and sound happens, and then you respond to what is given to you, right? And then this like cyclical, iterative thing happens. I do that every day. That's how I end every day. So for me personally, deep listening is a way of grounding myself. It's a way of turning inward, being moved by what I find there. It's a way of making sure that my inner landscape isn't like entirely evacuated in this very fast-paced capitalist society that we live in. Yes. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have people been experimenting with these sound systems in dance music environments, or has it mostly been used in seated ways?
In what ways?
Seated?
Seated, yes. Okay, so I mean at Monum and at Monum and the other two locations, they're a lot larger, right? So they have more capacity for movement. And at Monum, I mean, yeah, definitely dance music going on. I saw a piece there that was a dance party and an opera. So the vocalists were moving through the crowd, and because you can place sound, right? So their live vocal was placed wherever they were, and they had a remote control that like dragged the sound with them. So you're in a rave, and you're also hearing somebody like belt out something beautiful, right? And that's something that I'm building towards myself. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, James. That was so rich with imagining and what's that? Oh, you're good. Yeah, it was wonderful. Thanks for inviting us into a listening space together. Our next events at the Poetry Project are this Monday, May 9th, a reading with Noel De La Paz and Marwa Halal. And then on Wednesday, May 13th, Wo Chan and C.A. Conrad will be here. Thank you. Have a good weekend.